I was already an adult when my grandmother passed away. Her death was a complete shock to me. I spent a long time recovering, cried a great deal, and had nightmares. One night I had a dream. I was sitting on the bed in my childhood bedroom, and suddenly my grandmother appeared, accompanied by two dark figures, shadowy outlines resembling human silhouettes. I rushed to hug her, telling her how much I missed her and asking who had joined her. My grandmother replied that they were attendants, that they had brought her. Meanwhile, the two shadows stood aside, observing us. Our embrace lasted only a few seconds, as my grandmother said she wouldn't come again and that it was time for her to go. I led her to the entryway and opened the front door, and she stepped out into the form of a white cat. I don't remember whether I closed the door or if the dark guests left, but I do remember waking up in tears, which, as it turned out, had already begun to well up in the dream itself. About a year later, I fell seriously ill with the flu. It was during that feverish state that I saw them again. The two figures approached me and began whispering something to me in my ear. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I do recall that I strongly disliked their intrusive words, yet I couldn't escape them. After that, they began to visit me more frequently and took on new forms each time. But they were always two in number, and I always knew they were them. In one of my dreams, I was walking along a dirt country road when these two appeared from the mist. They began to call me to join them, to which I replied that I didn't want to go with them yet and that I wasn't ready to leave. A few years later, I experienced a flare-up of another of my chronic illnesses, becoming very ill and bedridden for long periods, and the two appeared much more frequently. Now they didn't observe or plead. They seemed to be hunting me. They chased me, broke down doors, and grabbed at my hands. I would wake up in terror, my heart pounding wildly. Meanwhile, my health continued to deteriorate rapidly. Conventional treatment was useless. The doctors shrugged their shoulders, and my mother somehow found a shaman who lived in another city and promised to help me restore my health. Looking at me, he immediately said that I was afflicted with a curse. I told him everything that was happening to me. Without hesitation, he wrote down a spell on a piece of paper that I had to read 9 times, 9 days each, standing before a mirror at sunset. Of course, I began to perform this ritual, and it gradually started to help me, but on the 7th day, there was a flare-up. I woke up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, gripped by fear, pain, and my own scream. I dreamed that I was standing before the same mirror before which I had been reading the spell, and behind me stood these two. One of them was smiling with a wide, menacing grin, and the other said to me, "We understand that you're casting spells here. You've gone completely mad." They wrestled me and shoved me into the mirror. It was dark and cramped, and you could see the room from the opposite side of the mirror's reflection. I couldn't move, only screaming, "Mommy, help! Mommy, help!" I woke up from screaming it all over the room. My worried mother came and sat beside me on the edge of the bed. Then I began to tell her the dream, watching as it made her increasingly frightened with each word. At the end, she burst into tears and began to tell me her own dream, which she had dreamed the day before my illness. It was as if I were screaming from the mirror, "Mommy, help!"
At that point, I felt completely overwhelmed. For the rest of the night, we both couldn't fall asleep, I from pain and my mother from worry, and we simply watched late-night television. We returned to our city. My illness subsided, but it didn't completely disappear, and the two continued to visit me in my dreams periodically, trying to catch me with clearly malicious intent. And then one day I stumbled upon a powerful ritual for removing a curse online. It required buying a new towel, a piece of soap, and a church candle, tearing nettle in a field, and taking a bath with it, reading a spell. The condition was that the ablution had to take place after midnight while the candle was burning and only in an empty house, alone. I did everything exactly as instructed, and the next day I burned the remaining soap, towel, and candle stub on a busy road. After that, the dark figures didn't come to me anymore, and my health gradually recovered over time.